didn't see you there. Hi, my name's Kurt, and I'm your host of the Nissan Z Club of America YouTube channel, where we talk about the people, the passion, and the cars that make up the Datsun Nissan Z community.
What the hell are you doing over there?
Shit, I better get out of here. So, Brittany's not gonna let me wrench on her car, and I don't exactly blame her because I'm not really good at working on things. But Brittany, tell us, what do we got going on here in this Z?
So we have a 1995 VG30DE in a 1992 Nissan 300ZX that I am restoring the engine on. But we're making it a little bit better than it came from factory. A little better internals. We're doing Wiseco internals and pistons, ported and polished heads, Kevlar timing belt. All of the parts that I've purchased were either from the dealership or through a website called Concept Z Performance, which you're probably already very familiar with.
Yes, Concept Z, send me and Brittany a check. We will gladly be one of the sponsors for your fine products. And you brought up a good point there, because one of my Z32 owners runs a Kevlar timing belt on the car. What are some of the benefits that you get with the Kevlar?
The Kevlar timing belt, you have a lot more shock absorption through the pulley system, whereas the load on a standard belt would cause more wear and tear on the polyester cording that's inside of the timing belt.
Is it safe to say that the Kevlar would be more designed for like a higher compression or a higher horsepower type build?
It is correct, but it's also beneficial to your standard engine builds as well.
Okay, Brittany, so one really interesting thing about this build, actually two interesting things. Let's start with the first. What is up with this green color? It almost looks like Slimer from the Ghostbusters. So what's the story behind that?
My favorite color is actually green. Not necessarily this shade of green, but online, searching through prismatic powder coats colors, this color in particular really stuck out to me. And then once we hit it with some Psychograss top coat, also from Prismatic Colors, it ended up giving it like a copper starburst almost kind of color, especially when you hit it with light or it's out in the sun. It gives it that golden sunshine kind of light.
Now let me ask you, with the green color, are you gonna leave the car white, or do you have?
The car is gonna stay white.
So white on green, all right. Well, hey, one's the color of money. The second thing that really blew me away about this build when we were talking off camera is this is going to be an NA car. Yep. You're not going to turbo it.
I'm not.
So tell us why you're going to stick with the NA.
There's a lot of reasons I did not want to turbo this car. One, the car is already hard enough to work on. I don't need any more work on the car, honestly. The car's never really intended to be a drift car or a performance car or any of those. I wanted something that I could just go drive around on Sunday, like you were saying.
Something reliable.
Reliable, easier to work on. Basically just getting rid of all the Nissan problems. What makes me tick and why Z cars? So the memories that I have built with these cars, with my friends, my family, my coworkers, mean a lot to me. And a lot of those memories have kind of shaped who I am today and why I do the things that I do. I like to keep those memories alive. A lot of the friends that I had that really got me into this world mean a lot to me, and some of them are no longer with me today. And I look over to my passenger seat sometimes and I can still see them sitting there with me, and I know that different parts of my car where people have come and helped me, and I know that they're still there, and I know that they're still with my car. And every time I work on my car, drive my car, go anywhere with my car, I know that they're with me. I look back to those days and I always think, you know, how different my life would have been if I didn't get introduced to this car in particular. I remember the first time that I ever saw one, I went over to my friend's house and they kept going on and on about this car, this Z car, and they just had all these stories about it, and they knew all this stuff about it, and I just thought it was so cool. And they said, hey, you wanna come check it out? And I said, yeah. So we go out in the garage, and there she is. It was a 1990 Nissan 300ZX. They referred to her as the cursed Z. They had this whole deal that the manual that came with that car was black, whereas all of the other 300ZX manuals were super colorful. And so they thought that the car, because they made it a black manual, that it was the cursed Z. So we're sitting there hanging out, talking around the car, and they start talking about going to this car meet. Well, I said I wanted to go, and that's when I found out the car only had 2 seats. So I really wanted to go to this event with my friends, and I was the smallest person. So they said, well, they couldn't ride in the trunk because they were too big for the trunk. So I offered to ride in the trunk, and my first experience with the car was actually in the trunk riding to my first car show. I got there and we had a great night, looked at a lot of cool cars, and I never really looked at the car the same again. It just immediately became a connection between me and my friends, and going out to these meets and meeting all the cool people and seeing all the cool cars, and that just kind of drove me to do what I'm doing today. This Z car actually came into my life from another Z car that I had. I was involved in a really bad hit and run accident on the highway. Where a black SUV tried to, he's missing his exit and decided to cut over a few lanes in front of the car. Didn't really account for how much space he had between me and the back of his car, but it ended up clipping the front end of the car and throwing me into a pretty bad spin, where the first wall that I hit, I was actually doing some work on my car around that same time to the seat. There were some seat bolts that were not threading in properly, so I had ordered a thread repair kit so I could rethread the seat bolts. So at the time there was only 2 bolts holding my seat in, so when I hit that first wall, my seat just came right up off the ground. It just threw me into the steering wheel, knocked me out for a good second. About the 4th or 5th spin through at the last wall, the passenger that's about when I woke up, and as soon as I hit that wall, the airbags just all deployed. And luckily nobody in the car was severely injured. The passenger had some minor whiplash, but essentially we both walked away from the accident. The driver of the SUV was never found. I saw when my car entered the spin, I could see his brake lights hit on for just a split second, like he knew what had happened, and then it's almost like that last second he just changed his mind. And I could see he had like a baseball cap on, and you could see it look up into the rearview mirror. So like he actually watched me enter the spin, and he decided to just take off. That same day, I had the tow truck come and get my 1992 or 1995 Nissan 300ZX at the time. We were hauling it home, and driving through the neighborhood about 3 blocks away from my house that I was hauling it to, there was this car sitting in front of one of my neighbor's houses with a for sale sign on it. And so I stopped, I had the tow truck driver stop so I could hop out of the car while my car is loaded on the back of the tow truck to stick my card in the door of this car. Later that same day, the guy had called me and said that I could come look at the car. He thought the car needed a new engine, that it was seized. So he offered to sell me the car for $900, and that same night I got the car home. We tried turning the engine over and realized that the starter was binding on the flex plate. So we were able to pull the starter off and get the flex plate out of a bind, and she started right up. the difference between the Z community and a lot of other communities I've kind of been a part of is I've noticed a lot more with the Z community that it is a lot more welcoming towards women. There are a lot more women that are interested in the cars. And the Z community, just in general, there's an immediate sense of connection with the owners and the cars, and we all can sense that when we're around each other. And I think it kind of makes us in a family, kind of in a way. We all know each other's struggles. We know how hard the car is to deal with. We know how hard it is to get parts, and we all know how much we love these cars. And I think that really ties us all in together in a way, in a really unique way. Being a female in the automotive industry has its ups and downs, but over the years, I've started looking at it a lot differently than I used to when I was younger. I think every mechanic has their own struggles, no matter what they are. And I think it's how we face those struggles and how we handle those struggles and what we do to find our own path that really makes the difference. It doesn't matter what you are or what you want to be. If you're driven and you want to do something bad enough, then go out there and get it. The community tends to actually find me. I think a lot of the cars end up getting drawn to me. I post photos of my car online and people end up finding me and usually coming to me like that.
Well, Brittni, you've been awesome today. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences in the Z car community and showing us this really cool Z32. We're gonna follow this car on the channel along the build, and when it's up and running, I can't wait to hop in with you and we'll go do some donuts. And again, if you like the content of this channel and you like Brittni, which she's kind of hard not to like, go ahead and hit subscribe, click that notification bell, and I will see you in the next video.